Coming up in the Bahamas tonight, Prime Minister Hubert Ingram defends against criticism levied against him over the Haitian president's visit and controversial remarks last week. A bloody weekend ends with 3 murders tonight, the progress of police investigations, and the debate over the Mayaguana land deal begins in the Senate. All those stories and more straight ahead in the Bahamas tonight.
Covering the islands of the Bahamas, ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight.
This portion of the news is brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Good evening and welcome to the Bahamas Tonight, the National Report. I'm Keishla Adderley. Thanks for joining us. Topping the news this evening, Prime Minister Hubert Ingram is slamming the PLP and DNA for what he says are careless statements and a misrepresentation of the facts surrounding last week's visit of Haitian President Michel Martelly. Defending against criticism directed at him surrounding the visit, Mr. Ingram also gave his take on the president's controversial remarks. Here's Shanique Miller.
Just what took place in the days leading up to Haitian President Michel Martelly's one-day visit to the Bahamas? More specifically, did the FNM invite Haiti's new president to the Bahamas?
Justice, I don't need the permission of the United States government, president, to travel to America, or to travel to Barbados, or Jamaica, etc., or to travel to Haiti. They don't need our permission to come. As a courtesy, heads of government will inform the government of the country they are visiting in advance, if only to ensure that certain security arrangements and protocol arrangements are put in place. I became aware through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Now, while in the Bahamas, Martelly left quite an impression, speaking in Creole to thousands of Haitians at Joe Farrington Road Auditorium that they should throw their support behind the group that will best support their needs. From that moment, Bahamians were incensed, angry that Martelly would dare make such a statement. But was he out of line? Prime Minister Ingram said no.
He was perfectly entitled to make such a statement. In fact, quite frankly, I don't see why it would be difficult for the Bahamas, the continents saying to Bahamians living in America or Jamaica or Barbados, that if they are going to vote and they are entitled to vote in those countries, that they ought to choose the party that best fits what their interest is. And so, insofar as the persons who are citizens of the Bahamas who are formerly Haitian nationals, we certainly look forward to receiving the votes of the majority of Bahamians, whether they were born in the Bahamas, naturalized in the Bahamas, or otherwise.
In the days that followed, political groups took Martelly's comments and laid them squarely at the feet of the FNM. But were they being disingenuous? For example, during the meeting, there were politicians present, and they, like the Bahamians in the audience, were provided interpreters so they could keep up. Prime Minister Ingram talked about last Tuesday night.
There were no FNM politicians at the function at Joe Farrington Road. There were a PLP member of Parliament, former Attorney General, Mr. Alfred Sears, and the PLP candidate for Fort Charlotte, Dr. Rollins, at the meeting with the 7,000 or more Haitian and or Bahamian nationals who went to hear President Martelly.
Further, Ingram noted that the courtesy call to the PLP the following morning was the perfect opportunity for the PLP to speak with Martelly about the reported offending statement.
Presumably, if Mr. Christie had an issue with what President Martelly had said, he would have raised it with President Martelly while he was at Mr. Christie's house. He certainly would not have waited until last night at his candidate launch to hear from Mr. Christie. Clearly, that's what I would have done if I had taken issue with a statement President Martelly had made.
DNA leader Brian McCartney also lashed out at Prime Minister Ingram, blaming him for the visit and comments Martelly made. Ingram said McCartney needs to ensure that he is first aware of the facts before speaking out.
Mr. Brian McCartney of the unestablished party calling itself the DNA says that I invited President Martelli to the Bahamas. That is untrue. In recent times, Mr. Christie of the PLP has had occasion to remind Mr. McCartney that he ought not be telling lies. I have to do the same thing. When you tell more than one lie, you become a liar. One of the things that young politicians and old politicians ought to do for themselves is to establish themselves as being credible persons. That you take steps to verify things before you make pronouncements. You don't go and shoot your mouth off and make statements that are untrue and that could easily have been verified in advance. Carelessness is not a good thing for a young politician or indeed for an old politician. And I caution Mr. McCartney not to continue to tell lies.
Now, Ingram did take issue with one of the comments Martelli made. It's the issue relating to citizenship and who's entitled. McCartney said children born to Haitian parents in the Bahamas have automatic citizenship. But unlike the Haitian or U.S. constitutions, which has citizenship granted upon birth, our constitution says a child born in the Bahamas takes on the citizenship of his or her parents and can apply for citizenship at 18. Now, during his courtesy call with Martelli, Ingram says the president of Haiti discussed issues pertaining to immigration and repatriation, trade and agriculture, as well as making Haiti more attractive for Haitians to begin returning home to take advantage of economic opportunities. Shanique Miller, ZNS News.
Former Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell is hitting back at the Prime Minister's remarks, calling them a huge act of deception or ineptness on the part of the government. According to Mr. Mitchell, the Prime Minister cannot be the head of the country and say no head of state of another friendly country needs an invitation from the Bahamas government to come to the Bahamas. In the statement, Mitchell says that even the head of state of a friendly country would not visit the Bahamas without that head of government establishing through his ambassador in advance whether or not the government of the Bahamas would find it convenient for him to visit. He noted that if the Bahamas government did not find it convenient for the president to come and communicated that to the head of state, then that head of state would not have come. Mitchell says the Progressive Liberal Party was advised of the visit of the Haitian president by the Prime Minister himself. However, the Prime Minister in his comments this weekend said he did not have an issue with the Haitian president visiting the country to address Haitians and their descendants, but noted it was not by invitation of the government nor motivated by the government. After a weekend which saw a series of murders, intense investigations are underway, and police are once again appealing for public assistance in solving the crimes. Altaviz Munnings has details of the crimes and where police are with their investigations.
More than 24 hours after that triple shooting off Fire Trail Road in the Mackey Yard area, police already have 2 people in custody thanks to the public's assistance. Assistant Police Commissioner responsible for crime, Anthony Ferguson, confirmed at a press conference Monday afternoon that the victims, recorded as the country's 13th and 14th murders of the year, have been identified as 24-year-old Alexandria Farrington of Harmony Street, Chippingham, and 26-year-old Anthony Miller of Gibbs Corner, who succumbed to gunshot injuries sustained after attending a party in that part of New Providence early Sunday morning. A third person, according to authorities, is detained in stable condition in hospital. ACP Ferguson hinted that this incident may be classified as a domestic matter. Meanwhile, authorities continue to probe the 12th murder of the year that happened when 25-year-old Deshante Bain of Scott Street in Baintown was reportedly shot to death after returning home. And then early Monday morning, authorities were called to East Bay and Mackey Streets to find 31-year-old Kenneth Gibson of Sandilands Village Road dead. Authorities had just investigated an incident in that area the night before. ACP Ferguson maintains, though, that detectives are following significant leads into all of these cases.
These are not isolated incidents, and we are doing everything that we possibly can to identify, arrest, and bring to justice persons responsible for these latest violent crime. The homicide at East Bay Street, and there are some other shootings at that area, we feel that there's a possible connection there.
ACP Ferguson confirmed that officers will execute a new strategy to maintain law and order around weekend late-night spots throughout New Providence.
Well, you may not know, but we try to make visit to all of those spots during the nights while the officers are out. As you can imagine, on a weekend, on any given weekend, you have any number of night spots open throughout New Providence. And so we make every attempt to try and visit those areas, especially those areas where we find that there are likely to be problems.
However, he credits tips from the public that have been crucial to their investigations.
We have been having good response from members of the public, and we continue to encourage members of the public who might have any information in respect to these crimes over the weekend and any other matters to please come forward and let us know.
Altavis Munnings, ZNS News.
Well, ZNS News also asked Assistant Police Commissioner Anthony Ferguson for an update on those alleged suicides which occurred on cruise ships this year. The most recent investigation involved the suicide of a British national. Local police, as well as officers of the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Broward County Sheriff's Office, probed the incident, which occurred on board the Allure of the Seas earlier this month. Once police have completed these matters, they'll forward them to the Attorney General's office.
Most of the matters were on that involve cruise ship that are Bahamian flag registered. We have a team originated from the Central Detective Unit, headed by Superintendent Paul Roll, and we have basically concluded all of those investigations.
Now, following those murders, a local bishop is calling for self-imposed curfews to be put in place. According to Bishop Simeon Hall, Bahamians living in Black Belt areas should do all that's possible to be off the streets before midnight. He's of the view a self-imposed curfew by citizens should help us not to surpass last year's murder count.